Tyler doesn't care about fixing the problems that he so often shows the world, because the dollar at the end of the day is Tyler's goal, and his incentive is to highlight and throw gasoline and incentivize as many of these problems as possible because it gets Tyler as many clicks as possible.
Just want their views reinforced by shallow, sensationalist bullshit. And Tyler just so happens to be the courier of that crap. So lacking in basic morals and original thoughts that all he can do is mirror the culture's ugliest habits.
As of right now, I genuinely think you slandered a charity for views and you should be sued for that. You should fix it.
If that makes me a far-right, fascist Nazi, then so be it. We're about to see a major pivot in Oliviera's marketing, which, quick spoiler, I think is going to be a very, very bad pivot. This is the death of journalism. Hey everyone, I hope you're doing great this morning. Now, Oliviera is someone I've talked a lot about on his channel. If you remember, all of this starting with him back in December of last year with that vintage video, very good, go watch it, which I'm glad to say, but I don't want to be malicious, has gotten the ball rolling against this guy being outed as a unreliable journalist that should not be trusted with that label. And just a couple of weeks ago, UJ Aubrey also released a video on him featuring Vince in a similar vein, which, to my surprise, seemed to also track up more dirt on him and his videos. And I say surprise because I legitimately thought it couldn't get worse after whatever should be the majority of stuff brought up in Vince's video. But no, it seems that there's much more to this guy and his glamorized educational videos. You also got a fresh new video by Willie Mac Show, same stuff, and even he was able to bring his own shit too, against Tyler. And today, I'll be referring more to his video, because though I haven't been able to finish all of Joey's video, I still want to talk about this topic, because I find it really fascinating, and also because I think now, around this time, we're about to see a major pivot in Oliviera's marketing, with a new response he made to all his videos calling him out, which, quick spoiler, I think is going to be a very, very bad pivot. So yeah, like I said, I'm mainly talking about Willie's video and the points in there. More importantly, the points I found to be the funniest. And so if there's any ones like I missed, today, it's not because I found it to be that bad. They definitely are. But I want to go over like the main ones, because there were some parts I brought up, credit to him, that was just laughably bad, like so insane. And also as well, quick shout out to my own Twitter, because once I find the time to finish Joey's video, I'll give my full opinions on there. Like the main key points I brought up that are very good. All the people he brought on. And there's some parts that might potentially be a bit yeesh, some parts are really aren't the strongest, because in this whole argument there are some points that really aren't the strongest, might be a bit weak, might bring down the whole thing. So focusing on the real critical points should be important, but that's only if I find any, just saying. But yeah, the first point I laughed at in Willie's video was the mole people of Las Vegas living in floodgates. Holy, that was a really good intro, because it really uncovered just how shitty the whole story was in that entire video. It's insane. For one, very common in Tyler's videos, making these people, average people, making it seem like actual bizarre cartoon characters. Like, oh my god, they live in tunnels? They're mole people. Some of them have lived in tunnels that are so dark for so long that they're actually blind. Therefore, we call them mole people. That's just, I think that's offensive. If you were actually someone there and someone called you a mole person to your face, I would find that offensive. But anyways, one part I found to be very, that's bizarre, was the overemphasis on how dangerous it is. Where he gets testimonies from homeless people being like, oh dude, sometimes they can open at any time and they can just kill us. Even though in reality, floodgates, they don't work like that. They only really open, once, it's raining a lot and it's actually becoming flooded. It's not gonna open, on some sunny summer day. It doesn't happen like that. But it seems like Tyler really believes in that, or he really pushed it in the video. Because at some point, him and his friend walking through the tunnels, at one point they hear banging and they're like, it could be anything, but they're like, oh my god, it's gonna open, we're gonna die. And then they run back out, as if their life is on the line, even though in reality it was nothing. But once again, he glamorized the reality to make it all the more interesting. So that was the first bad part. But the second part that was probably worse, much worse, was his slandering commentary of a charity called Holy Smokes. And what they do essentially is, they just help the homeless people around that area, around Las Vegas, I think it was. But the way that Tyler makes them seem, they make it seem like, they're the worst fucking charity in the world, where allegedly, from what he said in his video, they buy weed off like the plugs over there in the tunnels, and then they sell it back to them for a profit. They sell back the weed with fentanyl in it, to make money.
Final fact you'll love is that this nonprofit buys the weed they hand out. They claim to have a plug in the tunnels.
We have the most overdoses and deaths in history due to fentanyl, and so you are buying marijuana off the streets. I hope to God that's not true. I mean, buying drugs off the street and redistributing it, and you are a non-profit 501(c)(3), what is wrong with you? Marijuana is almost always laced with fentanyl. That is completely unethical.
This charity making money from homeless people, that's fucked up. Except it's not, because it never really happened. Like, even in Tyler's video, he says all that stuff and his friends well, but then they show no proof, no receipts, and no testimonies from the people, because again, it didn't happen. And also apparently, one of the employees, when they got word that he's coming over to the area to interview the people, they put a hit on him, because apparently they own the homeless people, and everyone, covering them is dead meat. But again, there was no hit on them, because why the fuck would they do that? I mean, I know why Tyler would mention that, because, it makes for a more enticing video, which for Tyler, that's exactly what he wants. I mean, the only bit of truth from all that slander was the employees. They do occasionally give the homeless people a bit of weed, or like one of them takes a hit of like a vape pen. And I'm like, initially I was like, you probably shouldn't do that. But then I realized, the life of a homeless person really fucking sucks. So if weed helps the day go by easier and faster, then yeah, who gives a shit, if they're having a better time, and that's what they take to make the whole life better. Like, I don't really give a shit. But even then, I have no idea how Tyler took that and twisted it as the worst shit possible. Them buying weed from them and reselling it for a profit. Like, what the fuck? I mean, if there's one shitty character that would do that, it would be his own friend, who I learned about from this video, called Kevin Dahlgreen, who apparently, I had no idea, has 19 charges, all relating to fraud and stealing from charities and non-profits. So yeah, he seems to be, way more shady, and for some reason, he brings them on in his videos as like a homeless expert. I have no idea why, and that really pisses me off, because somehow that piece of shit, from like all the attention he gets and from the views of Tyler's video, he somehow got like an interview on Fox News being like, okay, so apparently there are more people in Las Vegas living in floodgates, isn't that bizarre? And he actually goes on there, he backs it up, be like, yeah, that is true, I've seen with my own eyes, that is true, I can't debate that. So yeah, that was one part I made be like, what the fuck? But also there was a funny story from Willie Mack himself, where because there was a part in Tyler's video where he talks to a charity and he seems somewhat friendly with them. So then, Willie Mack contacted him and he was like, oh, well, if you have an issue with them being immoral and, scamming the homeless people of money and weed, then why don't you bring it up, when you had a conversation? And he said, well, actually, I have raw footage of me fighting with them, and me interrogating them. And then when he asked for it, 5 days later, he never gave it to Willie.
If our goal is to highlight the issue as it is, then maybe we bring out our friend Kevin.
If you think what they're doing is immoral, then why would you let them keep the money? How is this the extent of the conversation? I don't believe for a second that Tyler would be arguing with this charity about their methods and not bring up all the illegal activity that they're doing. So I asked him for the raw footage of this exact conversation. He sent me the document I showed you earlier, but no footage. I asked for it again and he didn't provide it. So I asked him a third time and he said he would, but never did. So I asked a fourth time. This has been going on for 5 days now. It's almost 2 years old. Going through stacks of hard drives. We'll see if I can find it. How do you organize your videos? You responded to Vince with the raw footage right away. He never got back to me. So I asked a 5th time. No response.
So does Tyler Oliviera have that footage? I don't know, I can't say. But is that bullshit about them scamming people also a lie? Definitely 100%, because even he himself can prove it with the footage that he apparently has. So yeah, that was like the first funniest part of the whole video. Like, the whole intro was just insane to watch. So then fast forward, again, there are some very bad parts, I'm not overlooking it, but fast forward comes to the George Floyd video, and that part I was like, holy shit, because I remember covering it, and when I first watched it, I was more critical of the argument that, Tyler made, and how it wasn't that convincing. But as it turns out, even in that video, he obscures details and twists them, to make for a more appealing story, more interesting. Like, for example, he interviews Bob Crow, who was the sheriff or the head deputy of Minneapolis at the time, during the George Floyd stuff and the Black Lives Matter riots. And he was making it seem like he was some poor guy being villainized, just doing his job. But as it turns out, when Willie Mack did some digging, he actually had some previous statements before where he called the Black Lives Matter stuff a terrorism organization. Just awful shit. So yeah, personally, if I saw some guy, calling that kind of group terrorist, then yeah, I would expect you to get some shit for that and be villainized to a certain degree. So once again, for the 100th time, more shit that Tyler hides for his videos to make a different narrative that would be more interesting, to get the views, the juicy views. But this next part, okay, the first segment was laughable at how bad it was, but this part pissed me off so goddamn much. Okay, so if you remember Tyler's response to Vince's video, one major point was the Haitians eating cats video in Springfield, where Vince was arguing and proving clearly that it was very, very biased against them, and that it wasn't really covering the story, make it seem like they did that 100%, they do eat the cats. And then in Tyler's response, he showed clips of that same video where he interviews friendly neighbors being like, oh no, I feel safe around the Haitians, they're good citizens. So then if you watch that, you'll be like, okay, yeah, I guess, he wasn't being that biased. As it turns out, that clip that he showed was from a different video, complete different.
Don't worry about it. It's more the Americans.
Here, Tyler is defending his Springfield video by showing a completely different video. It is so dishonest.
Ironically, we may have found the most accepting, loving town in America. And so I ask you, how can I both co-sign this answer and this answer in the same video?
Because it's not the same video.
So I guess in reality, he never did interview friendly people, shutting down the accusations, the allegations. So yeah, I guess to that point, his video would be way more biased, and he never did interview people talking good about the Haitians, never once in the first place. He had to actually find clips from a different video to make it seem like he's unbiased, when the first one, it never had any of those. That's so fucked up. So even in his own videos, he lies about stuff, and then in his responses, he also lies about stuff, like a complete dirtbag, right? But now, that's all the points, I got from the Willie Mack's video. Very good video, go watch it, by the way. So now, I want to read Tyler's response to, all of the backlash he's getting from, like I said, Vince Vintage, Jay Aubrey, and now as well, Willie Mack Show. Even though I think the response is more directed to Jay Aubrey, because he made it on January 18th, and his video came on January 14th, so it's more directed to him, even though I feel like as well, he probably say the same stuff to Willie Mack Show. But I'm gonna read it now. I want to show just how insanely bad it is, and how he concedes to the worst thing possible. As it goes, thank you for all your support over the last few years. 2 years ago, at the age of 23, I began traveling to interesting places and interviewing random people on the street with a microphone. While I believed I could do my best to balance the topics we discussed and to provide unbiased news by giving both sides of a conversation a platform, I've concluded unbiased news is a myth. All humans are subject to countless forms of bias, including me. The more of the world I see, the more my worldview has evolved. More interestingly, the more I've spoken with and agreed with those branded as far right, the more the left has made me their enemy. In 2025, I'll continue to speak with anyone I find interesting. I'll continue to explore interesting problems, places, and ideas to understand the world better. I will no longer hold back my conclusions out of fear of offending a loud minority of those who declare that certain conversations or ideas are off limits. I will be your vessel to explore the seedy depths of hell this world has to offer, and will do my best to help you understand it. I will fight for those with common sense to have a voice in this world. Love me or hate me, I will give you my opinion, and you can do whatever you want with it. Okay, so as a journalist, he just gives his opinion. That's bullshit. If you're a journalist, you cover reality, you cover the truth. And if you fuck that up, then you're not really a journalist, which is probably the best way to describe him. He's not, some journalist. He has the mask off one, and behind it, he's some shitty YouTuber who just wants the views, and that's it. He could not give a shit about the people, the place he covers. He just does it because he knows he gets attention from it, which he very clearly does with a huge channel that he has now after just a couple of videos, after a couple of years. Anyways, in his last paragraph, it gets so bad. If that makes me a far-right, fascist, Nazi, never said before, then so be it. he somehow concedes to people calling him far right, but more so, he concedes to like some part that nobody brought up that makes him look worse. If that makes me a Nazi, then so be it. What the fuck are you on about? I mean, before, like I said, as it is more like made towards Jay Aubrey in this video, even like I haven't watched all of it, but when I went to the transcript and Control F and typed in the word fascist, and just that one, because I couldn't find anything else, it's only brought up once, and it wasn't even used to like describe him. It was like a different context. So nobody, like nobody big is calling him that. The most, probably at best was Vince Vintage, who called him a racist. But not once, maybe far right potentially, but never once, did he go to the extent of calling him a fascist or a Nazi, because that's bullshit. So, in this whole response, he's strawmanning, a different argument that would be very easy to tackle, even though it's not made up. Like the actual whole big issue of him being, like tackling far right topics, he avoids that by making it seem like people are calling him a fascist or a Nazi, which, like I said, never could, even once. And then he finishes off with Tyler Oliviera coming to a city near you. And he photoshopped his original thumbnail from the response video with him wearing the iconic mustache and Aryan blue eyes. I have no idea what this guy's on, honestly. So not only did he make a response, conceding to the worst thing possible, but also he ignored like the biggest issue, or at least the second biggest issue, where he twists the story, he over embellishes them to make it more interesting, when in reality the thing he covers, it was never the case at all. And he makes like a different story from the original stuff, with tactics that are now proven, like out of context clips, interviewing biased people, and also outright lying about people and slandering them. Like I said, before with the Holy Smokes charity, saying that they rip off homeless people and scam them for money. Like just complete bullshit that he makes up for the sake of, for the video, for the story, to make it more interesting. So I want you to finish the video by talking about the major thing that Tyler talks about, being that the stuff he covers is not born from, a conspiracy, hateful, racist part of him. He just does his videos because he finds it interesting. But my issue with that is that you have to recognize that journalism is the one place where you have to put, interest and passion to a side, because otherwise you fail the entire point of the job, being that you get the whole truth out there and not make a bullshit. And once you get an understanding of his background with like his dog shit flashy thumbnails and videos, you realize, why he fucks that up so much even now. Also, despite what Tyler says about this being his passion, he very clearly designs these videos, thumbnails and titles in a way to get as many views as possible, which again, I think that's bad because it interferes with the whole idea of a documentary. So I think moving forward, Tyler should either stop making his videos or actually fucking sit down and think about other ways to do this stuff, where he just covers the stories, that's it, and doesn't add that much fictitious bullshit to the videos to hook people in. Will he do either of those? No, I don't believe so, because as you can clearly tell in that response, he just doesn't care about the criticism that people have against him or what they call him. However, I will say now, if he's going down that path, he better get ready to grit his teeth and accept all of it. Otherwise, he's just gonna break from the pressure that he can't blame anyone else for, other than himself, and that's it.